Today we are going to do some work with rhythms. I have a few different activities that we're going to do to meet a lot of different standards today. So the standards that we are working on are, I can identify and write 16th notes and rests. So I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to have some different pictures of not rhythms, but different types of notes and rests, and I want you to see if you can pick out the 16th notes for me. I can identify and write triplets and triplet rests. So just identifying which notes are triplets. I can identify and notate 3/4 meter. So I'm going to ask you to write a rhythm with 3 beats in each measure. And then I can identify and notate 6/8 meter. And I'm going to talk about what that means in a second, but same idea, you're going to write a rhythm for me in 6/8 meter. You do not have to record a Flipgrid with these rhythms today because we are not meeting any standards today that say I can clap the rhythm. So I want you to clap them on your own and practice them, but you don't have to show me that today because that's not one of the standards that we're working on today. Today we're just working out these different time signatures and types of notes that you could use in these time signatures. So let's talk a little bit about 6/8 meter. 6/8 meter can be a little bit tricky. What 6/8 meter means is that we have 6 beats in a measure, but the 8 on the bottom part of our time signature tells us that an 8th note gets 1 beat. So this goes totally against everything that I've ever taught you. I've always taught you that quarter notes get 1 beat. And that is true when we are in a time signature that has a 4 on the bottom. The bottom number in a time signature is the number that tells us which type of note gets 1 beat. And so in all of the things that we have done, that has always been a 4. And so that has always been a quarter note that gets 1 beat. But when you change that bottom number, it changes the note that gets 1 beat. So when we change it to 6/8, 6 on top, 8 on the bottom, and I will have all of this in a Jamboard for you to see with examples. But when we change it to 6/8, that means the 8th note gets 1 beat. So instead of counting 8th notes as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we are going to count the 8th notes as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many beats you have. So we're doing 6/8 time signature. So we're going to count to 6 and we're going to count 8th notes. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now in 6/8 time signature, if you're using 8th notes, the 8th notes might be grouped either in a group of 3 or in a group of 2. So usually we're used to seeing 8th notes grouped either in groups of 2 or you might have 4 grouped together. But in 6/8 time signature, you can choose kind of how you want your beats to be grouped, and this would be where you want your strong beat to occur. So if we want our strong beats to fall so that there's kind of 2 strong beats in a 6/8 time signature, we would group the 8th notes into groups of 3. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you'd have 2 groups of 3 to equal those 6 beats in that measure. If you wanted your time signature to feel like you have groups of 3 groups of 2, you would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you would group your 8th notes into 3 groups of 2. Either way, it equals 6/8 notes, but you can group them either into 2 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 2. And I will have examples of that in the Jamboard for you, but I wanted to kind of explain that because that can be confusing, that you can see 6/8 grouped either way. Now, technically in 6/8, when you group the 3 8th notes together, technically they're not triplets. They look like it. They kind of sound like it, but they don't have that 3 written over the top that would make it a triplet. So to make triplets, you have to have the 3 over the top. And so when you do the triplet part of your activity today, that's what you want to look for, is having 3 notes that are hooked together with a 3 over the top. So technically in 6/8 time signature, we don't have that 3 over the top. So they're not technically triplets, even though they kind of look like it. So when you create your 6/8 rhythm for me today, you're going to think about whether you want to group your beats into 2 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 2. Now, and I know I've talked to a lot of you about this before. For all of you who do not believe that music is math, this is a prime example of how music is very mathematical. Grouping beats and dividing a measure into beats It's all math, friends. So I know we've had this conversation in a lot of classes a lot of times, and some of you have probably been a part of that. This is very mathematical. So today you are going through the Jamboard, completing the different activities on the different pages of the Jamboard. I will have examples to show you. You will create your own rhythms. I will go in and look at them later. You do not have to record any Flipgrids for me today because that's not what we're working on today. We're just working on creating these rhythms. And so if you have any questions as you're working through the Jamboard, some of this is kind of new and different stuff that we haven't talked about before. So if you have questions, just holler and I will try to clear things up for you.